Hey everybody, Tucker Minter with William Byron Esports here, and today I'm going to be filling out the William Byron Esports Bracket Challenge. Make sure you get yours in by this Tuesday at 8 p.m. when we start the race at Indianapolis, and then tune in afterwards at 8 o'clock to the iRacing social channels or enascar.com/live, or you can tune in to see how your picks do at Indianapolis for the first race. So, starting off round one predictions, we have Steven Wilson versus Ryan Luza. This one honestly, it's not as easy as you would think with Steven being the one seed and Ryan as the 32 seed. Ryan has had a ton of speed this year, but if it weren't for bad luck, Ryan would have no luck at all. Versus Steven could fall into a pile of manure and come out smelling like a rose. It just tends to work out for him. So I think this is going to be pretty close from a speed perspective, but I just have to give it to Steven this week. Then we have Matthew Morton versus Casey Kerwin. This is a pretty close matchup, 16th and 17th in points. Casey also hasn't had a ton of luck this year. And so honestly, it's pretty crazy that he's 17th in points with all the bad luck he's had. But Matthew Morton's had a pretty good rookie year. So you can't count him out, but I'm just gonna have to tip the cap to Casey. I think he gets his season back on track this week at Indy. So then we'll have Zach Novak versus Malik. Malik has been up and down. He was pretty good at Indianapolis last year, qualified pretty well, had a pretty good race from what I remember. But Novak has also been running really strong recently. He was strong around the time we ran Indy last year and has continued that. So, this all junior motorsports lineup, I'm going to have to tip the cap to Novak right here. Then over here, we've got Dylan Duval as the 9 seed and Quentin Warman 24th in points. Honestly, I felt like Quentin was a little bit higher in points. He's been pretty fast this year. So this isn't really, nobody's laying down right here. But I think Dylan, he's been really strong in qualifying, particularly at tracks like Indy, I feel like. Not to take anything away from Quentin, I think he qualified really good last week at Iowa, but the only similarity between Iowa and Indianapolis, they both start with an I. So I think I'll give it to Dylan on this occasion, but wouldn't be surprised if Quentin were to pull through right there. Now we got Kenny Brady versus Wyatt Tinsley. Anything can happen right here. Two guys racing for the same back end team, so they'll probably be pretty close on speed. But Wyatt's been pretty strong this year, hasn't had a lot of bad races. It's been pretty impressive for him. So I'll give it to Wyatt this time. Just go with the favorite. Parker White and Cody Bias. Parker has had some tough luck this season. Cody, he's been running pretty good. He's had a little bit of tough luck himself, but kind of been on the upswing. Him been 20th in points right now this year has been doing pretty good. And so it's going to be tough. Cody qualified really well last year, but then ended up in a lap one, turn one crash. So didn't get to show what he had, last year. But Parker has been due for some good finishes recently, and so I'll go with Parker right now. Got myself versus Thomas Lloyd. Who I'm gonna have to go with here. But Thomas has had a pretty good rookie year for the most part. Stayed out of trouble pretty good. And we've raced at Indianapolis twice, and I've been in 4 wrecks. So not the kindest track to me. But hey, you know who I got to go with. So there you go. Now we have the bulldozer, Bobby Zielinski, versus the fireman, Seth the Merchant. Altus back end grudge match race right here. And Bobby's the top seed. Bobby's gonna be fast. Bobby's gonna qualify well. But I'm here to tell you all that the fireman, Seth the Merchant, is a dog at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, or at least he has that dog in him. So I'm gonna have to go for the upset right here, and I'm gonna say that Merch topples Bobby in round one. It's controversial. Bobby, I think, is going to have a good week. He kind of needs to get back on that upward trend after some crashes and the strategy not working out at Iowa. But I'm going to have to go with Merch right here. We got Vicente versus Nate Stewart. Anything can happen. Nate has been qualifying pretty good so far this year, I feel like. I feel like he's had a couple good qualifying runs, and that's super important at Indy. But Vicente, he's pretty good for knocking off a pole every now and then. And I would be surprised if Vicente did not qualify Nate just based on past history. So I think that's going to carry over into the race. Track position is going to be so important. Going to stick with Vicente right here. Jordy Lopez versus Christopher Money Hill. Jordy loves this racetrack. This is Jordy's favorite racetrack, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Chris, he ran really good here last year, got a top five, almost won the race. Depending on how those last few restarts had gone, he could have had a good chance to win it, but we had so many cautions, he didn't have a chance to end up having a uh, you know, real opportunity to challenge Steven for the win last year, even though he had a little bit fresher tires. So this is a tough one. I'm here to tell you. Jordy's really strong here. He's been on that upward trajectory. Ran really strong at Dover for a lot of the race. Got a top five. Chris has had a couple rough weeks, but I think my man Christopher Money Hill, William Byron Esports, we're gonna get back on the wagon. We're gonna have a good race over at Indy, so we're gonna get Chris that one. We got the all RFK grudge match, Sean Conklin versus Dylan Basin. Kind of surprising to me that Sean and Dylan are so far apart in points. I feel like Dylan's had a lot of speed, matching Sean, but obviously Sean's been getting the finishes. So, he's been having a great year. And so I'm just going to have to give that to Sean, roll with the favorite on this one. Then we have Donnie versus Cozy. And Donnie's had a good season so far. He's pretty close to playoff contention, right on that cut line. But I'm here to tell you all that another dog at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is Michael Cozy Jr. I'm here to tell you that man is fast around Indianapolis, likes the racetrack. So I got to give it to Cozy. Then we got G-Lo, last week's winner, versus the Outlaw, Tommy Gossett. This one honestly could go either way. Garrett's had a pretty good year so far, but they've been up and down in the past, and he just won. So you wonder if he's thinking about the playoffs already, since he's pretty high up in points. Doesn't have to worry about that 20th place cut line. Maybe they start shifting their focus to Michigan or something. Versus Tommy's really just looking to find his footing. But I'm gonna have to go with Gilo on this one. Femi versus Falkingham, another NFR back end team battle. Femi's had some pretty good runs this year, almost won Dover. Falkingham, honestly, I'm surprised he's 19th in points. I feel like he's been on the bad end of a lot of deals so far this year, but Daniel's a past winner at Indianapolis, so you got that going for you. I don't know if I wanna roll with the favorite again. I've been rolling with the favorite a lot, and, that doesn't typically work out well in those bracket challenges. Didn't work out well for me in the NASCAR in-season bracket challenge, so I'm gonna it's coin flip. This is where the tough decisions are made, but I'm gonna say Falkingham just since he's a past winner here. They got Connor Yurashak versus Colin Keister. Colin was super fast at Iowa. Made a lot of progress in the race. Super impressive. It was tough to pass. I certainly didn't pass many people. And he was really motoring on up there. So look for him to have a good run. But Connor Yurashak's just been super fast all year, qualifying well, putting himself in position to run well. So I think I got to give it to Connor. And then our last round, or last matchup of round one at Indy, we have Sebastian Marin versus Blake Reynolds. So, this is a tough one because Blake Reynolds, he's got a ton of experience. Almost won at Indy a long time ago to make the final four, or maybe did win that race. I just remember him crashing while he was out of gas. Um, and then Sebastian Marin, almost won last week at Iowa. They've been starting to show off what you expected from him with how well he ran in the qualifying series. So, you certainly can't take anything away from him. So, this is another tough one, but I'm going to have to go with Sebastian Mayer. I'm just going to go with the favorite on that one. This moves us on to round two at Nashville. So, completely different track. We got Steven versus Casey. Steven ran pretty good there last year. I think he got fourth or fifth. Casey was a little bit behind him, I want to say. But we have a completely new tire since then. So you can't really, take a whole lot on that. But again, how do you bet against Steven right now? So there you go. Uh, Novak and Duval is interesting because I feel like Duval ends up qualifying really good at Nashville, but then Novak, he's normally on the charge moving forward. They're, kind of right next to each other a lot of weeks. It's a tough one, but I think I'm going to go with Novak on that one. Wyatt versus Parker. I'm gonna have to go with Parker here. He almost won Nashville in 2024. Was pretty good there last year, I want to say. And like I said, Parker. Eventually luck's gonna turn around. And if he makes it through Indy, I think he makes it through Nashville with another good race. Me versus the Fireman, man. Merch can be a dog. It's gonna be tough, but you know who I gotta go with, and this Nashville been a very good track to me. So hopefully that the good times keep rolling at Nashville, and we transfer on over merch. Vicente versus Chris at Nashville. It's gonna be tough on William Byron Esports. I'll tell you that. Vicente, very fast over at Nashville Super Speedway. Typically, he led a lot of laps. I think from second in 2024, almost won the race there. And then I don't exactly remember how he ran last year, but I imagine it was pretty good. And then Chris has been kind of up and down at Nashville. So I don't want to do it to Christopher Money Hill, but I gotta be unbiased on this one a little bit. Um, and I hope I'm wrong here. I hope Chris makes it through, and I hope Chris and I meet in that final round eventually. But I'll give it to Vicente on this one just so I don't show bias. Sean Conklin versus Cozy in Nashville. Man, this is a coin flip. Cozy can be very fast in Nashville, but I feel like every year at Nashville, Cozy ends up in a wreck. So, that's the tough part is you don't know who's gonna get caught up in an incident and who's not. But man, it's just tough. But I think Cozy makes a big playoff push here at the end, and I'm gonna give it to Cozy there. Gilo past winner at Nashville, Falkingham, been up and down there. Don't really remember, a lot of him at Nashville. So just since I can think about Garrett, well, I guess he didn't win that race at Nashville. I guess he got wrecked by Jimmy. But anyway, I can remember Gilo being right up front at Nashville. And so I'll give it to him. Then we got the all Nexus backend team brawl right here. Euroshack versus Marin. This is about as much of a coin flip as you can get. But Connor's in his second year, Sebastian's still in his rookie year. Or is this Connor's third year? Whatever. I mean, Connor, he's starting to really put it together, so I'm gonna give it to him. Over to Richmond, my favorite track, the best track, my home track. Steven versus Novak. Steven's been, we won there in 2024. 2025, don't really remember. I tried to forget that race, but he was right in front of me, finishing around probably top three. So, um, but Novak, he was on a pole at Iowa. They're trying to figure some stuff out on the short track. So, it's not going to be an easy one, but I don't know how you bet against Steven. Me and Parker, there's gonna be another tight one. I mean, it's the quarterfinals. Everybody that's up here has earned their spot, so it's gonna be tough. But man, I want to win at Richmond more than I want to win anywhere else. But I guess Homestead this year, so um, you know, I gotta go with me. I love the track. Vicente versus Cozy at Richmond. Now, Vicente is a past winner at Richmond, led every single lap in his first for his first win. And then Cozy, he qualified on pole there. I think it was 2 years ago, and almost won the race, but for some two tire strategies, getting ahead of him. So not gonna be an easy matchup right here. It could really go either way. Vicente could qualify well, but could get caught up in a wreck or something. We have the heat races, so there's gonna be a lot of stuff going on. Cozy hasn't had the consistency in qualifying, but that doesn't mean he can't rattle off a crazy lap. So man, it's tough. It's tough. This is why I guess why they pay me the big bucks to race for William Byron Esports because we make big decisions like this. Um, man, my man Cozy, little bias. We're gonna go Cozy right there. Richmond, Garrett Lowe, Connor Euroshak, Garrett Lowe, we just talked about him at Nashville having speed. I think if you're good at Nashville, you're gonna be good at Richmond. But again, Garrett's got that win last week at Iowa, so maybe they're not so worried about Nashville or Richmond in particular since they're back to back. Maybe they start, looking at the playoffs early, testing for Michigan, testing for Texas and Kansas. So, the short track program they're probably not too worried about versus Connor still looking for that win. Maybe he's won by then, but we'll see. Um, so I'm gonna go with Connor on this one. Now we got Daytona, Steven and I. You know who I'm gonna have to go with here. But again, Steven tends to have good luck, but hey, there's luck's gotta come to an end sometime. Maybe my luck will turn around. You know who I'm going with here. Cozy versus Connor Euroshak at Daytona. Man, could you imagine? Michael Cozy Jr., the Cinderella story, going all the way to the finals, or Connor Euroshak. It wouldn't be a surprise to see him up there either. So this is tough, but Michael Cozy Jr., illustrious career of plate racing, maybe not so much in the Coke series, but outside of the Coke series, Firecracker 400 winner, tons of rod car wins. You just got to give it to him on the plate tracks. Then you got me and Cozy, Altus Esports finale back end team grudge match. And you know who I'm gonna have to pick to win the William Byron Esports Bracket Challenge? I have terrible luck at Michigan, but again, luck's got to change at some point. We don't think about that. It's a new year. We're going to take it at Michigan. We're going to move on. We're going to be the champion of the William Byron Esports Bracket Challenge. So, hope you enjoyed me going through all the matchups, my thoughts on them. Maybe a little bit of bias in some of them, particularly the champion, but you can't bet against yourself. So, make sure again you go to williambyron.com and then you can go on the bracket challenge page, submit your entry. There's a ton of awesome prizes from Logitech G, some headsets, some mouses, everything like that. Steering wheels, of course, which would be really awesome to get some awesome Logitech gear. Some William Byron Esports prize packs. I don't even have a William Byron Esports water bottle. They're giving that out, so that's pretty cool. And then you can also, if you're the grand prize winner, you get 2 passes for the NASCAR race of your choice. VIP garage passes. So those are really, really awesome. And, there's some restrictions to that, but that'll be a great experience for whoever wins. So make sure you get that bracket completed before this Tuesday when we race at Indianapolis at 8 p.m. So, just make sure you get that bracket in. Good luck. Hopefully you pick me to be the champion. Hopefully I can, fulfill that. So that's all I've got. Thanks for watching.